Okay, so I'm doing the 66 books of the Bible in abstract interpretations by each book. And tonight we're going to do a triptych, as in 1st John, 2nd John, and 3rd John. So I have some Canson watercolor paper. It is 140 pound or 300 G's. But G's, I think they mean grams. And we're going to take out 3 sheets. From the pad. Be careful not to rip them. Just rip them out. Then take your pad and set it aside. And you want to separate your paper with the tooth. The tooth is the texture of the paper. And that's the surface we're going to paint on. So just space them out on the table. As such. Now the top of the paper is always up. That's the surface you want to paint on, the surface with the tooth. The surface with the tooth. Now we're going to take some painter's tape. And we always want to use 2-inch painter's tape, because when you start layering tape on 1-inch tape on big pieces of paper, it just doesn't look very good. So when you're using big pieces, just use 2-inch tape. You can get this at the dollar store. So we're going to start from one end and work to the other with the tape. Just like this. And the tape is pretty much transparent, so you can always make good even edges with all your tape. Good even margins all the way down. Then on the top, the tape is transparent so you can see your paper beneath. You just want to make about a 1-inch margin. All the way across. Now we have to do the vertical sides. Two. Three. 4. 5. And 6. Now the paint won't be able to get underneath the painter's tape, so it's going to leave a nice white margin about 1 inch wide around the surface of the painting. Okay, good. So we're going to have 1st John, 2nd John, and 3rd John, the books of the Bible. So first of all, we want to take a yogurt dish with about 1 inch of water in the bottom. There's about 1 inch of water in here. And we're going to start out with our lightest color first, being Pyroli Orange. Now, Pyroli Orange or Pyroli Red is hard to find. I've only seen a couple companies make it, Golden and Van Gogh, watercolor and acrylic. Most of these paints can be very toxic. They can cause cancer, but you know, unless you're putting brushes in your mouth or eating your paint or whatever, you should be pretty safe. You might want to wear a respirator, but professional artists just work with it on their hands all the time, as long as they're not putting their brushes in their mouth like they did in the old days. And even back then, people didn't really catch cancer or anything like that. It is carcinogen, but yeah, not to worry. So take a mop and mix up the paint. Mix up the paint with the mop till the Pyroli Orange is completely suspended in the water. Now I am missing my paper towel, so I'm just going to grab my paper towel. So I've got my paper towel. Just make sure the paint is suspended in the water, so, completely suspended in the water. And take your brush and put it in some water. And put a drop here, 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 and a drop here. Perfect. And just let that soak in a bit there. Good. Now we're going to take our squeegee. We're going to pull the paint across the surface of the paper. Now we're going to wipe off our squeegee. Wipe it off. And now we're going to make some spatter. So take a 3-inch brush, for the kind of like house painting brush, and soak up some of the pigment. Just make spatter all around. Now the objective of doing a triptych or a diptych is making all the paintings look alike, very uniform, so to speak. Now when you do spatter, part of your paper is wet and part of your paper is dry. So you're going to have two types of spatter, one that looks dry, wet on dry, and one that looks wet on wet. And it'll give two very different effects. Now we're going to take an orange pencil crayon. And some pencil crayons here. We're going to take an orange one. And we're going to sharpen it. And we're just going to make lines, random lines, all throughout our works. Now that's the first half of the paintings. Now we're going to switch into an analogous color, but I've chosen an earth tone called terracotta. It's kind of a red. All browns are actually reds. So take a yogurt dish with about an inch of water in the bottom of it, and put in some terracotta. That's good. Take your mop and clean it, make it suspended in the water. The terracotta suspended in the water. Yeah. 66 books of the Bible, and I'll be done maybe in a month and a half. It's been a long work. I've worked on it for like 4 months. So, you'll see what it does, right? Hopefully I'll never break them up. So we have our terracotta here. And we want to put a little right here, a little right here, and a little right here. Then we want to take our squeegee. We want to pull down. Let's try that again. Down, up, and down. Good. Wipe off our squeegee. And let's just soak up some of this excess water here. Just soak it up with your paper towel. You always want your paint to be transparent. You always want to be able to see the paper through the paint. You never want your watercolors to be so opaque that you can't see the paper beneath it. It just doesn't look right. So soak up some of that paint. Now we're going to do some terracotta splatter. So take your terracotta on your brush and just spatter around. And that is good. Now we'll just take a paper towel. We'll soak up some of the extra pooling paint where it's pooled. Okay, that's good. Now we're going to take a brown pencil that matches the terracotta, and we're going to do some lines. Okay, now we're just about done. Abstract art is about making marks, the different type of marks you make on the paper. Some techniques vary, and each artist is different, but it's all about experimentation. So now we're going to take some salt, some coarse salt. You never want to use fine salt because it just makes a mess. But just pour some coarse salt. And that salt is going to suck up the water out of the pigment and leave a streaking design or a cellular design that you would find in acrylic pours. It's quite interesting, and each painting is different. And that's 1st John, 2nd John, and 3rd John. I'll just grab the camera here so you can get an idea of what I'm doing. These are the 3 Johns. And when these are dry, I'll take the tape off, which will leave nice white margins, and they'll sign them with a 2H pencil. Thank you very much.